Take it, Regan.
Last week, we did things that were amazing. This week, we're doing things that aren't so amazing. Today, we're doing games that could have ruined a series personally for us. So this is just opinion-based and how we feel about these games, not necessarily that these games are bad, but, I mean, my guess is that the majority of our audience will agree with us. Now, we're going to go through all of us today, and eventually, you know, in this series, we'll get to a point that we don't have to do intros anymore. Now, let's start off with Kyrodon. He is new in this episode, so announce yourself, boy.
Hello, I'm Kyrodon, and I hate Fortnite.
Fair enough. Hey.
Gamecast. I am ready to throw down, but first thing I'm gonna throw down on is my first game.
Okay, hold on. We're going through the people, Kyrodon. We're not going.
Okay, all right.
I made that same mistake last week.
I'm excited.
Alright, we got our commentator. He's pretty drunk, so he's not going to participate in it this week. We got Dick the Woodlayer Skywalker. Go ahead, man.
Whoa!
I don't know what this guy's lit on. I don't know what he's lit on, but he just did like a beer bust in Nashville woo. Like the woman on the buses. He's a woo girl.
Clip it. Soundboard.
Dick Skywalker's officially a woo girl. Okay, so next we got the General, C Juicy, Kleb, King K. Rool, probably 1,000 other names. Who
King
knows?
K. Rool. Call me King K. Rool, please.
You juicy!
Someone nerf him.
He's been nerfed twice actually, and he's still great. But
They can't
we'll do
nerf
a
me,
smash.
dude.
We will do a Smash
I
episode
keep
later.
leveling up. Have you checked out my channel? Here's a plug. I have new art, and I have some awesome videos.
Yeah, it's really nice, and
I
he had
just finished all the artwork today, so it's official.
Oh, sweet.
Yes.
must-
He
I'm gonna
had
hire
a
you
really
now.
good reaction video to Endgame, spoiler free. So for the people that are working or studying for finals at the moment.
I actually know
Anyways,
a lot of
next-
people who haven't seen it yet, which is crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, it's finals week, so you can't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, we got last but not least, we got our director, and after he introduces himself, he's gonna kick it off with his first game.
Oh, am I director?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're the guy who.
No, we were
Starts live
talking to
stream.
the ghost in the corner of the room. Yes,
Oh,
you.
I guess. Yo, what's up? I'm gonna just go jump straight into it. And
My name is Jeff.
My name, yeah.
On topic, guys. On topic.
Yes, on topic. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right, so my first game I'm gonna pick. It's actually a couple games, but I'll just start with the one that started it. It's gonna be controversial. It's Pokemon, and the one game in specific where it's like I started to not like things was X and Y, and it was mainly down to like one feature that eventually became another feature, and that was Mega Evolutions. I did not like Mega Evolutions at all. Like when it first came out, it started to become a little too much like Digimon to me, and I played the Digimon games too, but
I
just
hate
like
on Digimon.
it seemed to go against what what they said about evolution, like the whole point of like you evolve, you don't go back or whatever, and it's just I'm all for adding more stuff to the meta, but I just didn't like it, and the fact that even most tournaments banned them alone kind of says something about them. So
Yeah.
and that also evolves into Z moves, and from Sun and Moon, and that's pretty much it.
Fair enough.
Didn't
I mean,
ruin
at
the game
least
for
they,
me. It
yeah,
just,
at least they limited it to one game. But I mean, you didn't name the game that actually kind of ruined things recently, but you know,
yeah.
go ahead with your first, Kyrodon.
Well, the first for me is something that was near and dear to my heart, but when I saw it, I just felt so sad. And it was SimCity 5, or just SimCity as EA would want you to call it, but fuck you.
5. Oh, is this the
SimCity
always online
5.
one?
Yes.
Oh,
The always online. Dude, SimCity 4 was my childhood, and when I saw a new SimCity, I was like, oh hell yeah! And then I saw what the game actually was, and I was like, oh hell no! So, like that was like always online. And, like I saw like the building space that you had, you know, the, to build your city, and you just have a square on the whole map. I was
it's
like, what the
tiny.
fuck? What the fuck? I remember when you could build huge fucking metropolises over the whole fucking play space. And I also remember how fun just playing God was, and apparently that's wasn't as fun, and playing God, not in destroying, but in creating, raising whole mountains out of the ocean. That was amazing.
Thrillville off the rails.
Okay.
Oh, that's a throwback.
Okay. Sorry,
Thrillville off
okay.
the rail. That game where it's okay to be an employee and date your customers.
I used to drop my customers in a lake.
But yeah. And so,
Alright.
and then my second pick, which is I feel like might be
Up,
controversial.
not yet, bud. Not yet.
We're circling.
We're cycling.
Recycling, maybe.
So we're cycling like one person at a time. Like
Oh, okay.
you do your first, then we cycle through again because obviously the second ones are always going to be stronger. Always
You even
stronger.
cycled, bro?
Oh, actually, I
Do
have
you, do you cycle the dark side? No. Okay, I'm not going to get too deep into
You
that.
should do
Anyways,
your first one as your stronger one first.
Roll it again.
you do the stronger one last because you save the best for last.
Okay,
Anyways.
if we're doing that, I'll go ahead with my not so strong one.
Send it.
All right, so what it is, it's the Star Wars EA's Battlefront series as a reimagining and sequel to the original Lucasfilms.
Pandemic.
Yeah, just Battlefront 1 and 2. Oh my goodness, where do I start? Imagine it's just they took out the story, the campaign mode, and put in loot boxes. So that should say a
The
lot.
beta was okay. I mean,
Now here's the thing. Here's why I ruined it so much. The beta, I was so hyped playing the beta, dude. I have videos on my channel, more videos of me playing the beta than the actual game. Dude, I had so much fun. And then the game came out, and it was still the beta. Like there was no difference really. There was no campaign. The survival mode wasn't even fun, and the online it was so limited. It just compared to the original ones, they were so you couldn't just hop in vehicles. You couldn't just hop in anything from the ground and go up this
oh,
stage.
you didn't hop. You spawn camped the coins.
Oh, I
Yeah,
hated that.
there were coins. Yeah, exactly. There were
Also,
coins, and you had to wait near the
something
coins
like
to get the vehicles.
Word of wisdom, though, like these days when people say beta, they don't actually mean beta. It's just like public demo for advertising.
Early access.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first one, and really, I just mean the first one. But when the second one came out, I kind of consider them together because the second one was no different than the first one, except it had a campaign, which was a letdown. And the online, it was still just as limited, except it was just new stuff. They've been one thing I will say though, they have been updating the game since it came out for the last 2 or 3 years, and they finally added capital supremacy and Obi-Wan, Grievous, Anakin, stuff from the originals, where you could go in a vehicle and fly up into space and stuff. But it's still
Now, are
it's
they
just a shame
balanced?
how limited it is.
No,
compared to the old one.
it's not balanced at all.
The original
but, I
wasn't
mean,
either.
Yeah, but to be fair,
The original, you could there was so much more potential that even though it was unbalanced,
Kashyyyk.
you could still do some crazy stuff. But in this one, it's just if you're in a losing match, you're in a losing match. There are some games where certain sides win. Like in the original one, depending on who you had, crazy game changers could happen. But in this one, it's kind of limited.
like say Paulus Master, for example, in the originals. This is just an example. Okay, Paulus Massa, you start with the rebels having the advantage, right? But as the Empire, if you capture command point 4 and 5, you get the circle. Therefore, then the Empire has the advantage, and the rebels have to fight for those 2 points back to be able to get the opportunity to win again.
Now, in this new one, once one side has the advantage on depending on what map it is, it's almost impossible to win. And they're fixing it, but it's so limited, and it's nothing like the older ones, and it just kind of ruined the Battlefront experience. Like when you think of Battlefront, you don't think of the new ones.
Yeah, definitely not. There's a difference between Battlefront and EA Battlefront.
Yeah. But it is heading in the right direction. But I mean, still, it's.
Yeah, very, very fair. Okay, so now I'm gonna go with my first one, or second one, or however you want to put it. And this one is Spyro: The New Beginning. Now, okay, so this game followed one of the best Spyro games of all time, Spyro: A Hero's Tale, which was just mind-blowing. It was ahead of its time. It had ice breath, fire. It had anything you would want playing as a small dragon. And the final boss, Red, you're fighting, a demonic red dragon as a little purple dragon with different breaths. And the game was difficult too, and there's a lot of collectibles, a lot of things you had to do to 100% this game, and you wanted to 100% this game. Like, it was that great. And then the New Beginning came out. It gives him an origin story, which we never saw before, so everyone was excited for it. But when it came out, they made Spyro think he was a dragonfly. What the fuck? Just, what? Like, it decided to annoy us with a weird art style, okay? And reboot Sparks. Sparks was almost annoying as Chip from Sonic Unleashed, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Just, wow, this game was just so garbage. And then the sequel to that, Dawn of the Dragon or whatever, wasn't much better either. And
I like Dawn of the Dragon.
After those, right, they scrapped it, and then followed Skylanders, and they haven't touched Spyro since recently with the Reignited trilogy, which is surprisingly really good, but it's just the same 3 games as the original 3, so I can't really, say it's better. But A New Beginning did kind of ruin the Spyro series. Alright, we're going to roll back to you, Keith, and give us your top.
So, I went to the Resident Evil franchise because for a while there, they kind of went off their roots. So, I was going to pick 4.
I think with the roots thing, 4 was a success, so I think they kind of decided to start dipping more towards what 4 did.
4 was way different than what the originals were. Like, it went to more action, like enemies actually dropped ammo, which was a problem. But the thing is, the first time you play through 4, it's still kind of survival horror. The first time I met the chainsaw guy, I was actually scared. And so I still count that as survival horror. But when it went to 5, now 5, fun game, really fun game, especially with a friend. But it lost all horror. They even tried bringing back the liquors at one part, and it just it wasn't horror anymore or scary. Like, all of it was in bright daylight, and you're just shooting. It's not even really zombies anymore. It's the same thing. It's the same basic enemies from 4, but you have a lot more advanced people. Like, you have all these different types of guns and stuff, and it seems like they kind of recycled some ideas from 4, but tried to make it over the top action.
Now, after that one was off Raccoon City, was that one any better? I never got to play that one.
People still hate Operation Raccoon City. Now, The thing is, what they sold Operation Raccoon City as is, I never played it, but I watched gameplay of it, and I think I would actually kind of like it, just because it's kind of just like, you know, Call of Duty Zombies, where you can just like shoot up like all these zombies in an area or whatever. But you get to walk around actual Raccoon City, which is something I always wanted to do in Resident Evil games. So, to an extent, I can't hate on it that much because it was never sold as a true Resident Evil game.
I actually want to get into a debate with you about just Resident Evil in general, but that's off topic.
Yeah,
do that.
we could do that for a future episode. Just keep the ideas flowing. And Keith, that was a very, very good game series to go ahead and follow up on. Next, Kyrodon, please follow with your first.
Well, yeah, because like I actually felt more strongly about SimCity because like childhood nostalgia, but this one, I'm still like kind of like just like scratching my head over, and that is, and this might be controversial, but Battlefield 4.
Ooh, I know where he's going.
Where like, because Battlefield 4 is a good game, but something about it just felt off to me. Okay, and like I've been like just juggling it in my mind for a while, and like I guess like maybe just like bad impressions. Like first off was basically like the whole life cycle of the game, because how when the game first came out, it was actually a huge buggy mess, so bad that EA's stocks tanked for a little bit. So then like the theory goes that like DICE got desperate just rolling out patches, so that's why like the file size for anything running on their like Frostbite engine is like a mess or something like that, but like that's just a theory. And like and then like also like weird, like they chose to focus on things that I found strange when they were like updating the game, such as like focusing more on like balance and stuff like that. And this was actually something I recently found out, where like the games like never really felt good to play, and I actually found out recently that like apparently like the team that they used to design like their map design team was apparently like completely different, like not even like level designers, like between 3 and 4. Like 3, they used actual level designers for their maps, so that's why it always felt fantastic to play. Okay, and then like but then 4 came in, they mostly used more like artists to set up a bunch of cinematic things, and then that, to be honest, that just wasn't really fun to play in. It's cool to look at,
That's a
but
good
not fun to
point.
play in.
Because they did
then,
have all the
like,
dynamic maps.
Yeah, but like everybody kind of like hated the dynamic maps eventually, even though like it was cool initially, but then like it just got annoying, over time, and like basically I feel like it was at that point when like EA and DICE tried to engineer the spectacle of Battlefield, when like in the past like the spectacle of Battlefield came naturally. It was just people figuring things out, and that's why Battlefield was amazing. Okay, because it was like entirely like those Battlefield moments that they advertised so hard. You can't force those, okay?
Right.
So yeah, like, again, like and so like and the 4 was where I felt like they started trying to force that stuff, and it just felt wrong to play. Even though like eventually it did get good, but it still just felt kind of just off to me. So yeah.
That's fair.
Okay, strong. I like the strong opinion. I think with our generation, with 4, I think we didn't like it as much because we grew up with the Bad Companies and Battlefield 2 and 3, and we got that feeling of awesomeness. And then 4, the new generation liked. EA's like, oh, they like this shit, so we're gonna keep putting this shit out. And then they put out they put out Hardline, and that's when I really think. Yeah, that's what I think really turned around the series, and they tried their best to redeem it with Battlefield 1, but it still didn't work because they lost the majority of their audience when Hardline was released. Like everyone was still playing 4 when Hardline was out. Like Hardline was just ditched right off the bat.
Here's the thing, like I heard about Hardline, is that apparently like there was a game made completely independently called like some kind of cops and robbers thing, until like suddenly it got bought up by EA, and then like apparently like it got shuffled around inside it until like somebody decided, okay, we could take the concept, like get the DICE LA and Visceral team on it, and then like slap Battlefield on the side of it, and then people will buy it because it has Battlefield in the name.
It had a pretty interesting story, but
yeah, because it was written by Visceral. Visceral's like really good at writing stories.
yeah, the story was good, but I think with the story, it kind of walked you through the whole time. There was no, it was just like objective to objective.
Seriously, I would have I wouldn't have hated Hardline as
I
much
like the
if
multiplayer.
It didn't have if it didn't have the
The
Battlefield
beta
game.
was awesome with
Beta was
Hardline.
fun.
Yeah, the beta was awesome, but when the game actually came out, it was already like, it was so buggy. So many things would just, just go the wrong way out of nowhere, and then people would figure out the bugs, and the game just became no fun because you had people just standing on top of towers completely, taking out spawn points, which every time you spawn you die, and it just got no fun.
But like, I feel
So
like
fast.
my main point, the point that I really latch on to though is that like in a Battlefield game, the most important aspect is the battlefield. So when the map sucks, and you can feel it when the map sucks. You can tune the gunplay all you want, but when the map is not fun to play on, the battlefield is not fun to play on.
Felt like Titanfall. 4 felt like Titanfall.
Whoa. Which Titanfall?
Well, it's-
Titanfall is good.
He likes
Titanfall is
Titanfall.
good. Titanfall is good because of what it has, but take away the mechs, and take away the wall running and everything else, what do you have? Battlefield 4.
I will save this for later. You know what
Anyways,
that
go
is?
ahead,
You know what that
Caleb.
is? You know what that is? Apex.
Dude,
So
Kiradon
my-
can talk about Titanfall for literally hours.
Okay, so
Again,
let's save that
Gamecast.
for later, and go ahead,
Gamecast.
Dick, not Dick, the general. Dick
Mine's
is gone.
mine's probably very controversial depending on who you are. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I don't know who all has played it here though. So this game doesn't ruin the series because I think this is one of the best series ever. But this game just took a step in the completely wrong direction, and it ruined it for me. I was so upset, dude. So my number one is Batman Arkham Knight,
Whoa.
and that's
I'm
because
surprised.
let me explain this. It's very simple. It's very simple. The first and second one, absolutely amazing. It went from good to perfect. And then this one was hyped up to be even better. And in the hyping up, they said that, oh hey, it's called Arkham Knight because there's a new original villain.
Oh.
And it's not anyone else that you've ever seen before. Said who made it? Rocksteady?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it turned out that Arkham Knight was just Jason Todd. That bothered me so much. Because they could have introduced the Bat family into this game. Because they started to in Arkham City, and it was so cool. And in this game, they could have introduced even more of the Bat family. They could have introduced Red Hood. They didn't need to make an Arkham Knight. And the reason I brought this up is because recently, like right now in the comics, last week they came out with Detective Comics issue 1002, and this run right now introduces the Arkham Knight into the comic books, and it's not Jason Todd, and he's actually like someone that is really hard for Batman to take down. Like he just captured Damian Wayne in this last issue, and he's interesting and tough. Like you don't know who he is, and it's not Jason Todd. So it's having a good story with the Arkham Knight is something that they could have done when they took the cheap way out, and that's my story problem. Now the gameplay problem was a lot of the time was spent in
The
your car.
The Batmobile, man.
Which it was cool to finally be in the Batmobile, but the way they presented it was, yeah, you can go at this person 120 miles an hour. They just get a concussion if you hit them head-on collision. What? Oh yeah, and you got a full-blown machine gun on your what? Batman is using machine guns now. Oh, they're beans, so it just knocks them out.
Rubber bullets.
Rubber bullets. What?
Yeah, rubber bullets are a real thing.
Well, he did.
But if you,
Batman did use rubber bullets in the Dark Knight Returns comic series.
which is true, but and I'm like, okay, that's fine, I can see that. But the amount of times that you can run over someone, or the amount of times you can shoot somebody, it just
Right.
doesn't feel like Batman. Especially, it doesn't feel like what a sequel should be coming out of Arkham City. Now the world was bigger. It was designed better. The world was bigger. It was designed better, but it felt like it was specifically tailored to a Batmobile when that shouldn't have been the focus.
Yeah. The DLCs turned out pretty well, though. I'm not
Oh
gonna
my
lie
goodness,
about
the
that.
DLCs were amazing. Yeah, when it was a self-contained story and wasn't an open world, weird twisted metal game, then yeah.
I do
So
like
that
that they
was-
started making like a larger Gotham City for you to swing around in a little bit.
Yeah, like, it was the design. It wasn't just like horizontal. It wasn't just landscape. Like it was increased. Like the verticality of it was insane. Especially the one section of Gotham, like the one island out of the 3 islands. It was like you could climb so high, and there was just so much complexity to the buildings, and it felt like what Gotham should feel like. But that whole island also was like tunnels in it for the Batmobile, and like all the Batmobile missions took place on that place. It was just annoying. Like going from point A to point B is fine, but when you turn your car into a tank and you're supposed to be like guarding things and stuff, it just doesn't feel like Batman anymore. So
That's fair.
that coming out of like the 2 coolest Batman games ever, and just something that introduced that stealth aspect into it, kind of just took away. Arkham Knight took away a lot from it when they added that mechanic into it. Plus the story, I mean, it just was nothing special anyways. The coolest part was the Joker, which was like the side plot.
Oh, like the it's like all in his mind.
Yeah, Joker died, killed himself, but he's still alive in Batman's mind because Batman is slowly turning into the Joker, which is cool. That's something they're exploring in the comics right now with the Batman Who Laughs. In his issue, he infected Batman. Now Batman's turning into the Joker. So that's so cool, but it was overshadowed by just a lame Arkham Knight and Deathstroke. In Deathstroke, you couldn't even fight. You had to fight his tank, which I don't want to get into that, but like Arkham Origins. Arguably, out of all the Arkham games, the coolest boss was Deathstroke in Arkham Origins. And in Arkham Knight, he was there, but you only fought his tank. You never fought him.
And Arkham Origins wasn't even a really good Arkham game.
Yeah, Arkham Origins, I would argue, is just as good as Knight. From story and gameplay perspective,
interesting.
not from design, but yeah. So that's my number 1.
Alright, guys. Yeah, you guys know where I'm going with this. My number 1 letdown in gaming history is 007 Quantum of Solace. Now,
What
many
system?
game series, all of them, like just this game in general, like many game series adopted by EA or Activision tend to either become a new or just they completely tank. And 007 was a game series known for its wacky FPS split-screen multiplayer or its unique campaign. Well, Activision decided to make a campaign that included both 007 Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace film storylines. Now, my initial impression of the game was okay. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I'm starting off at Mr. White's mansion. You learn to switch between third-person cover and first-person view, it was all right. But as you progress through the game, it gets so repetitive and becomes extremely easy. The multiplayer was absolutely garbage. It was terrible.
Play the Wii
Following-
version. It only allowed
Okay.
4 people online. Total. 4
What?
people. And try
Okay, so
aiming your guns to Wiimote.
third person was probably better on the Wii version. Anyways, so following this ship pile was GoldenEye Wii, which it wasn't that bad. It was a fun party game if you had some buds come over, And then following that was Bloodstone. It was a third party company that made this, and it was fantastic, to be honest. And last but not least, here's what just ended the current 007 games, that we could look forward to coming out every other year or so. So GoldenEye Reloaded and Legends was a duo that was so garbage that nobody dares to speak of them. You can't even buy them on app stores anymore. It's just they just know how bad it is. Plus Activision lost the license straight after Legends. That's how it's just. So you hear this and you're like, okay, so this was just a mix of bad and good games all within a 5-year span. And now here's what was before Quantum of Solace, right? We had Agent Under Fire starring Pierce Brosnan. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Tomorrow Never Dies,
And
man.
You had Nightfire, which literally the split screen was probably the most fun party shooting game for the Nintendo GameCube, arguably. Now, what started this whole 007 gaming, like, you would never expect, okay, 007, right, agent game, Hitman's out there, it's not very unique. What started this genre was 007 GoldenEye 64. And
did you just
I think
compare
it
Hitman to 007?
Okay, a lot of people do online, but I'm not gonna go
They're
into that right
nothing
now.
alike.
I'm aware, but like people say the game, not the characters, the games.
Even
Like-
still.
64 was like one of the first big successful first-person shooters, right?
I'm going into that, yeah. So to start all this off, like this amazing genre of games was 007 GoldenEye 64, which still like
Where'd he go?
Oh shit.
I'll fill in. Which still was an awesome game, but okay, take it away.
for some reason I kind of fell out. I don't know what happened.
It's okay, Reagan. It happens to all guys eventually.
I want to stop you from divulging the truth.
Yeah, you can't handle the truth. No, okay. So what games still can do today, what 007 GoldenEye did, play that. Okay, so in this multiplayer split screen, okay, you were able to interact with so much. The doors, you could break the glass, you could hide in the toilet with a rocket launcher waiting for someone to open the stall door so you can completely kill yourself and them at the same time. You could just go into the hallway that,
You were a
is
prick.
just by itself outside, and you could just stand there with the golden gun and wait for everybody to come out the slide door. And then you just kill everybody. Like, there's so much you can interact with in 007 GoldenEye 64. And what shooters today don't do, they don't let you interact playing multiplayer. Like, you can't do all of that. You can't hide in a door, or you can't hide. It's literally what COD does is, player versus team.
Splinter
That's
Cell
their
games
thing,
do
right?
that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not the same. It's not. And what Activision did not realize when they got this game series is what made 007 games amazing. And Activision completely shit on all of that. And that is my number one.
I bet Reagan played Oddjob.
You can't handle the Hat of Doom,
Damn sure.
which was equivalent to the Golden Gun, by the way. The hat was a one-hit kill, and after you killed somebody with it, you could pick it back up.
I'm more referring to the fact you can't hit the damn guy.
I
Fucking
mean,
short.
you can hit Jaws. The one guy who plays as Jaws, and everyone's just firing at him at the same time. But anyways, yeah, this is it was probably my biggest disappointment, because even the films, I love the 007 films with a passion, but this game
Quantum of
it
Solace.
has me. Yes, but like that was one game though.
So,
but what
Ironically,
Reloaded,
Quantum of Solace was kind of a crappy James Bond film.
Yes, but they used the storyline from Casino Royale in there as well. It
I
had
think they had to
potential.
do that to make it good. I think that there was a lack of budget for like 007 that year or something.
I completely agree. I thought, I mean, 007, it just started out with, on the 64, it's just an amazing series. And it just, compared to the other ones, it just didn't live up.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we're all going to do
Were
some
these, like-
honorable
were these,
mentions.
We're at 35
gonna say
minutes,
that.
so are you sure you want to do this?
It's just going to be quick. Like, we're just going to say the titles. We're not going to say why.
Alright, honorable mentions, and then outro. So I'll start with mine. My honorable mention was Assassin's Creed Unity.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Mine is Pokemon Let's Go.
Agreed.
Well, I can't think of one.
Keep thinking, keep thinking.
Like,
I think
Mass
mine...
Effect 3. I didn't play that game, but I heard everybody hated it for the ending. But
So I didn't play it, but I watched my friend play it, so I know why. I think my
Okay.
honorable mention, though, is Need for Speed The Run.
oh, I forgot about Need for Speed.
Dang,
Hot
there's a lot
Pursuit
you can
2.
say about
EA, guys.
The original Hot Pursuit 2 was fantastic.
The
Most
newer Hot Pursuit
Wanted
was
was my shit.
Last
What
good
did
one
you
was
do?
Carbon, in my opinion.
All right, everybody. This is the end to Webisode 2. Brought to you by Electronic Arts. Guess
Brought to you
what?
by EA Sports.
EA Sports. We mess up everything.
Fuck.
EA
It's
Sports.
br-
It's
Give
not in the
us all
game
that
if you
FIFA
pay
money.
for it.
EA Sports. Don't buy our games.
Remember EA Games?
EA Games.
EA
Don't
not in the
challenge.
games unless you pay a microtransaction?
No, wait, I got this. EA Games. Challenge the buyer.
EA Games. We play games with your wallet. Really, you're the ones getting played.
Alright, thank you for watching, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Tune in to episode 3 next week.